walking gave us a feel for a regular, repetitive beat, left, right, What's more, it instilled in Homo sapiens an instinct to divide those beats by multiples of 2, like our 2 feet. The minute you start subdividing the pulse is when you have real fun with rhythm. You could take the basic walking pace and count 2 mini beats for each step, or 4 for each step. We tend to subdivide beats into 2, but we could in theory divide them into any number we wanted, and various other options have been tried over the centuries. One very popular option is to take 2 beats and divide them into smaller groups of 3. This pattern is one of the mainstays of Anglo-Celtic folk music. Its success in this part of the world may have something to do with its resonance with speech patterns and popular poetry. A limerick, for example, follows this exact same subdivision of beats. There was a young lady from Ickenham who went on a bus trip to Twickenham. She drank too much beer, which made her feel queer, so she took off her boots and was sickenham. But the honest truth is that triple time patterns were always the offspring of double time. You can take even the most famous triple time tunes ever to hear the underlying 2s and 4s in their DNA. The Blue Danube Waltz, for example, sure enough goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But you can also hear the binary operating system going on behind it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. There are many ways of exploiting the subdivision of beats, but the simplest way of all is to have them on top of each other, so you have beats of different length happening at the same time. So you might start with these 2 big long beats, these minims, and you divide them in half, and you get 4 of these crotchet beats, and then you divide them in half, and you get 8 of these quavers, and then smallest of all, down here, divide them in half, 16 little semiquavers. George Frederick Handel used this building block formula to great effect when he wrote an anthem for the coronation of George II in 1727, Zadok the Priest, a piece that has been heard at every British coronation since. The opening introduction overlays the smallest units, known as semiquavers, with notes of exactly double the length, known as quavers. The repetition of these quavers and semiquavers over and over builds an incredible tension to the piece. When the choir finally starts singing, full majestic effect is achieved by having them sing in our slowest 2 units of time, the crotchet and minim units. Handel's Zadok the Priest introduction may change its chords, but the rhythm is pretty constant. In Philip Glass's opera Akhenaten, written 250 years later, we hear a similar pattern, but this time there is a subtle but significant difference. What's happening to Philip Glass's chugging along rhythm is a trick perfected by African musicians centuries ago. The pulse isn't changing, but as the pattern repeats and repeats, something else is changing. In musical jargon, we say that the accent is shifting. accent is the fourth key element in rhythm, along with pulse, tempo, and the subdivision of the beat. So we better find out what it is and how it works. Accent is all about which beats are important and which are not. The important ones get stressed, the others fit in neatly between. Let me show you by using the running technique of Olympian athlete Abby Yetikan as an example. Because Abby is a human and not a machine, one of her legs is ever so slightly stronger than the other, so she leans off onto her right foot. Those two steps, right, left, are the nucleus of all our rhythm. Strong, weak, strong, weak. We accented the first beat in a pair, and the minute we repeat the motion, we have created our first groove. So fundamental to our rhythmic instinct are these accents, we even imagine them when they don't actually exist. We can't help ourselves. Listen to this pulse, which could be the ticking of a clock. Listen for long enough, and you'll find yourself organising this ticking into groups of 2 or 4. Your brain automatically gives one of the beats an emphasis by default. As it continues, you might even start to hear favourite tunes in your head ticking along to this pulse, with all their imported accents. But there's no accent or emphasis in this electronically generated beat at all. I deliberately fixed it so there wasn't. Your brain has superimposed a hierarchy on the beats. It has created virtual accents. You can, if you like, take any collection of equal beats and give one or two of them special emphasis. So if you have 8 beats to play with, you could divide them into 2 groups of 4 and put an accent on the beginning of each, like Handel does in Zadok the Priest. While Philip Glass starts off his Akhenaten prelude with the same grouping of 4 as Handel.
Did you hear what he called, like, quarter notes and...
Many flavors. And a crotchet.
Yeah, those are
Pretty soon he starts to change where that accent falls. So it turns into this. Later still to this. Finally, this. This trick of shifting accents was the rhythmic device of choice for the so-called minimalist composers in Western classical music in the second half of the 20th century. But this had been meat and veg for African musicians for thousands of years, where they might improvise for hours on end, making subtle and incremental changes to the accents every so often. We've made a pulse, we've played around with its speed, we've subdivided it into small units, and we've given those units accents. Our voyage of rhythmic discovery is almost complete, but not quite. Subdividing beats and giving them accents has one important side effect that has given an extra charge to rhythm of excitement and energy over the centuries, but particularly in the 20th and 21st. This side effect is called syncopation. It's music read like a script, where rhythm gets loose, playful, and mystical. Syncopation was a term popularized in the 1920s during the jazz boom to describe jazz's new jazzy rhythms. But believe it or not, both the term and the phenomenon have been around. Syncopation is a musical sleight of hand, whereby you smoothly shift the beat to slightly ahead or slightly behind the next move. It makes music sound more fun, instead of sounding anything mathematical. is human like. It makes things sound human instead of Here's a simple example from the art. It's a short piece in mention, and this is what it would sound like without syncopation. This is what Bach actually wrote. My right hand, the upper part, is being deliberately delayed by a half beat all the way through the phrase. This, in its crudest form, is syncopation.